This meeting is being recorded.
So again, thank you so much for joining. Today, we've got three subject matter experts that are going to talk to us about social media. First, we had a success team for the HEB Chamber, led by Sue Schultz, that said, we want to learn more about social media. And so who are some experts that are in our chamber? So the first name that was suggested was Kaylin. And Kaylin Settle, I'm going to read her bio here because I don't want to mess it up, and there's a lot of good things. So after receiving her bachelor's degree from TCU in 2015, Kaylin immediately took the plunge into marketing and advertising. First, working for a local ad agency, and then next she moved into Pier 1 as a brand loyalty specialist. Craving something a bit more impactful, Kaylin jumped in an opportunity to do work as a marketing director for her dad, personal injury attorney Brad Parker. A lot of us know him, and Parker Law Firm is a boutique law firm with offices in Bedford and Fort Worth, focusing on select number of catastrophic personal injury cases. And as the marketing director for the firm, Kaylin uses social media, manages it, email marketing, community events, online advertising, SEO, and more. And I want to hear a lot more about Pier 1. I was so sad when that closed, Kaylin.
I know.
But it wasn't because of lack of me shopping. I think between me and my mom, I thought we would keep them in business. So the next subject matter expert we have is Patty Marshall. So Patty Marshall has been in marketing roles for Dallas and Arlington Chamber of Commerce. For 15 years, she has helped promote DFW as the place to live and work. Working directly with key stakeholders in the community, she oversaw programs and events to strengthen economic impact by growing business. Patty entered agency life in 2005 and ultimately became a partner in her advertising agency. She was exposed to numerous marketing tactics, including print, digital, television, and out-of-home strategies. She also served as the managing partner responsible for client acquisition, strategy implementation, and internal operations of the agency. Pier 98 Marketing was formed in 2015 to put Patty's expertise to work for small businesses. She now works with local companies providing agency-level services in the area of branding, online strategies, and traditional marketing services. So we have a lot of knowledge here. And then lastly, as our committee was talking, to say, it doesn't have to be somebody within the HEB Chamber. Is there anybody that you know that is really an expert in doing great things on social media? And I raised my hand and said, I know this amazing lady named Sherry Garcia. So Sherry Garcia is the founder and CEO of Cornbread Hustle, a staffing agency for second chances. As a recovering alcoholic and meth addict herself, Sherry created Cornbread Hustle to help people with criminal backgrounds and those in recovery finding meaningful full-time jobs. Sherry's career includes extensive experience in public relations, marketing, consumer product development, and television news reporting. And I saw recently something about her on LinkedIn, and I was blown away about other social media influencers that are like the A-listers talking about Sherry being, at that level and influencing on LinkedIn. So I cannot wait to jump in. And this is I have some questions. The subject matter experts have received them. But it's going to be a dialogue. So feel free to put anything in the chat if you want to. Our friend Elizabeth was going to try and monitor that for us. And Sue, if you could monitor that as well. So we'll just kind of go down the line. And I want to know what do you think puts you ahead of others? Or what's the best thing that you've done that makes you stick out? How do you stand out? So Kaylin, we'll start with you.
I think for us, when I first started this job, being a personal injury law firm, I felt like my options were kind of limited on what we could do on social media, really thinking about, okay, people think of us as, very professional, kind of by the book type of profession. And I think one of the biggest things that we've done over the past couple of years that I think really sets us apart is that we aren't afraid to take some risks on social media. I don't know if any of y'all have seen Brad's TikToks and Reels and some of the kind of more fun things that we try to do while still trying to be authentic and true to ourselves and what our overall goals are. But really, I think for us, taking risks and testing things and not being afraid to try something new that we might think, hey, you know, we're lawyers, we shouldn't be doing TikToks, or we shouldn't be, you know, posting XYZ on social media. I think for us, it's just kind of taking risks and not being afraid to kind of figure out where to go next.
That's great. And this whole thing is taking a risk. As I don't know if it stopped recording for a second. It sounds like it might have. I got bumped out for a second, but this whole thing is new, so we'll unpack that a little bit more. All right, Patty, we'll go to you. What makes you stand out?
Okay.
For your clients?
I think the biggest thing is when I started marketing, I used to have to convince people they needed a website. It was kind of like, is that a trend? Is that going to stick around? And that was, of course, also long before social media. So one of the things I think that I can do well with my clients is take traditional businesses who maybe haven't been on social media and introduce them to that area and the platform, and really figure out what's best for them, and ways to communicate their message. As we all know, you know, email newsletters and different things, hoping someone goes to our website. Sometimes it's hard to really engage and get our communications across to clients, where social media just makes that so easy now, with things being shareable. So I think it's taking business strategies and things that businesses have done for years, and then actually using these new platforms that we have now to integrate that messaging, and reach our consumers faster. And most of the businesses I work with grow by word of mouth. So sharing things on Facebook is very important to small businesses.
Yeah, that's really good.
And I do
And
love
sure.
Brad's TikToks, by the way.
Yeah, I know the chamber talked about TikToks, and generally the business rule is stay away from it. I think there was even a speaker that said, you know, be really careful about that. So, but good for you for taking some risks. Sherry, what do you say? What makes you stand out?
So as you guys probably heard in my introduction, I'm pretty open about my previous drug addictions and alcoholism. I would say one of the main ways that I've stood out is I offer vulnerability, but with information. So I'm not just airing out my dirty laundry. I'm helping employers understand what it's like to manage somebody who has struggled with addiction in the past. As a person that has a staffing agency for Second Chances, I'm continuously sharing not only my experiences as a former, I saw the cat walk by.
Yes, that might happen a few times. Sorry, Sherry.
That's awesome. No, not only like literally a black cat. It really, for 1 in 4 people have a criminal record or a drug addiction. So my goal on LinkedIn, so that's specifically the platform that I've done well with. I started with a couple thousand followers, and when I started sharing my real story, it grew to almost 150,000 followers. And the reason for that is so many people can relate to what I'm saying or find it informational. So I'll do a video about, right now I'm doing a video series called What Is That Charge? And every single week I'll do a video about a criminal charge on a background check and what it means, and some scenarios of what could have happened, while sharing what I've been through. So somebody is not only, I shouldn't say entertained, but it's storytelling while they're receiving information. So before I make a post, I always ask myself, what does this help somebody else, or am I just glorifying my own business or myself? And so if the answer is it helps someone else, then I'll usually move forward with posting.
Wow, that's really good. You guys have all touched about, you know, channels and marketing. So we'll go backwards, and Sherry, we started with you. So you're only on LinkedIn. You don't do others.
No,
channels?
I'm not only on LinkedIn. So LinkedIn is just a little bit of storytelling for you guys right now. So I started Cornbread Hustle 6 years ago, which is the staffing agency for Second Chances. During COVID, I was only 1 year sober at this time. I started the business before I got sober from alcohol. I'm 15 years clean from meth, but 4 years sober from alcohol. And so I was only 1 year sober when COVID hit. So I got really scared, and I pivoted the company to be a disinfecting company. And because we were taking people out of prison and disinfecting essential businesses, that got some PR. But even more, what I didn't realize would happen is so many people were on unemployment that I finally got my shot, where companies wanted to pay me to find people with felony convictions to work for them. So my company went from $0 to 5 million a year pretty quickly, which is like a massive jump. So being able to get on LinkedIn and share my story there, that's where every penny of that 5 million annual run rate a year has come from LinkedIn. I do have an Instagram, but my Instagram account serves a different purpose. It's my audience on Instagram is more of people seeking hope or people looking for sobriety inspiration. So you'll see a lot of my before and afters there of weight loss, or how different I look from addiction before and after. So my Facebook and Instagram are more of to give people hope and to inspire change, while LinkedIn is a lot. I'm not putting on Instagram and Facebook how to read a background check, because that audience probably doesn't, not only do they not care, but it's not going to convert and translate. So I base on every platform that I have, it's different. And then my TikTok, it's funny videos with me and my grandma. So it's like, I'm not even looking to get business on TikTok most of the time. So it's just my personal preference of personal brand building, why I do things differently for each platform.
Okay, what about you, Patty?
I was going to say that is exactly what I try to teach my clients, is not every platform is for you. And really think about what is the goal of, being on Facebook or being on Instagram or LinkedIn, and really talk about that and have that strategy discussion before we move on. Because some people have a lot of success at it, and some people have a really hard time, growing likes and followers and things of that nature. But as we were just saying, what's the purpose of it? If you're on Instagram, what are you hoping to gain with the information that you're sharing? Is it more awareness? Is it more converting clients? So again, having those discussions up front, I think, is very helpful in having an idea of why you're using the platform, instead of just being on there, because not all likes are the same. And again, if you have different strategies for what you want to get out of it before you start, that really helps you fine tune your content and what you post also. So
Great.
I like that.
I would agree with both Patty and Sherry. For us, we're on, for the most part, LinkedIn, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter a little bit here and there, but our messages on Facebook and Instagram are very different than what we're posting on LinkedIn. LinkedIn for us is more of like a referring attorney base for us. So we're tailoring the message to talk more to attorneys than we are on Facebook and Instagram, talking more to a different audience there. So I think knowing kind of what your strategy is and what the purpose is for each platform is really important.
So since they're all, each one is different, does anybody use a bundled service?
I use a program called Hootsuite. If that's what you mean by bundled service.
Yeah.
So this is pretty new-ish, I think, but you're now able to, instead of having to post the same thing in one kind of send, you're able to tailor it to each platform. So I can do my initial content. Okay, this is what I'm initially saying. And then I can click on my Facebook button and say, okay, but for Facebook, I'm going to change it here and add this link and use this graphic. And then for LinkedIn, I'm going to kind of backtrack a little bit and say this, this, and this, and show this graphic instead of the one that I'm showing for Facebook. So I still use a bundled service for all of our platforms, but you're able to really tailor the message instead of having to post just kind of a blanket post to each one.
Right. And do you know how much that is?
I do not know off the top of my head how much we pay for that. I know it differs based on how many platform or how many social channels you want to include on it. But I don't know off the top of my head, but I can find that information out for
Patty,
you.
do you happen to know? I didn't know if.
Yeah, typically you can get on Hootsuite or TweetDeck or some between $20 and $30 a month. The thing that I think is nice, just like Caitlin was saying, you can change. So like you don't have to have hashtags on your Facebook posts. You can put those just on Instagram or Twitter. But the other thing too is finding one that schedules for you, because that's a nice part too. I try to go in and do as much scheduling as possible and then just let certain things play out. Otherwise, you're in there posting, every day. Which on some platforms you need to do. Nextdoor is one right now still that doesn't let you schedule out. But I've been using Loomly only because of the amount of accounts that I have. So like Kaylin was saying, if you're on 5 platforms, when you go subscribe to something, your price is going to be based on 5 accounts because maybe you have 5 different platforms you use. Whereas I have social media for several clients on several platforms. So Loomly is one that allows me up to 100 accounts on our plan. And that's about $70, $80 a month.
Okay, great. Sherry, I'm suspecting you don't use a bundle service based on how specific and different you use your platforms.
I don't. There's like, in my, I should say private life, I guess. I'm a roller derby girl. So those pictures aren't going to be posted on LinkedIn and stuff I post on Instagram. It's just, I do everything manually and separate, which I don't advise for anybody who's running a company account or somebody like Patty that's managing a lot of clients. That would be too tedious, but because I sprinkle a little bit of my own recipe with every platform, that's it. I don't use any of the bundling stuff.
So there's a question, Lindsay's asking everyone if you're able to tag people using Hootsuite. If you can tag people. So if you're on Facebook and you want to tag Pure 98 Marketing, can you do that in the bundled service? Do you guys know?
I have not really ever had any issues. The only time I run into issues is if I'm trying to tag specific people versus businesses. Usually
Yes.
when I'm trying to tag other businesses, a lot of times I'll post about being at a chamber luncheon. And so I'll go in and try to tag the chamber. That usually is not an issue. It's just when I try to tag individuals,
Right.
people's personal accounts where it blocks me from doing that. So then I do go back into, I go back into Facebook and I'll edit it and tag the person if that's what I'm trying to do. But usually with businesses, I don't have any trouble.
You don't have any trouble doing it from like inside your account?
From Hootsuite.
Yeah, that's what we've had to struggle with, is like tagging it from inside the account. So we have to go back and then tag people whenever it's on the platform, but it's good to know. More research.
Yeah, I think we do that too, Lindsay, at Six Zones, because we're on 4 platforms. We use Hootsuite and we do that. And if we are friends with the business or person, then we can pull that up. So kind of the same thing Kaylin was saying, right? To make sure, otherwise we have to go into it. But then we also go into it each, like, because LinkedIn, it's so different who you're targeting, right? So we kind of do it a little bit segmented as well. Good question. Okay, so Sherry, so how often should you post? Is there a best time to post?
So I know that on LinkedIn, if I'm doing a post that's more inspirational. So here's the great thing about LinkedIn, if you guys don't know, it has a snowball effect. So let's say, just to give an example, I had an employee create her LinkedIn from scratch. She was fresh out of prison, and she had 0 followers besides me. I had her make a post, and she ended up, I don't know, she might have probably 30,000 likes on that post. And you may be asking, so how did she get 30,000 likes on a post if she had 0 followers? Well, LinkedIn, the power of the network is if I go comment on her post, then all of my 150,000 followers are going to see it in their newsfeed. And so if one of my followers who has a lot of followers post, so if I'm doing something that's really inspirational that I know is going to get a lot of comments regardless, and it's going to snowball, I can post it Friday at 5 p.m. even though most people would say, why would you ever post something Friday at 5 p.m. on LinkedIn? But if I'm posting something where I know somebody, it's not as fun for them to look at and it's not as engaging, then I'm going to go with my content does the best if it's Monday morning between 6 and 8 a.m., maybe even 5 and 8 a.m., or Tuesday morning, 5 and 8 a.m. Reason for that is people are getting into the office and the first thing they're going to do is open up LinkedIn to avoid the real work, just to get settled in. And if they start commenting before their workday begins, that's when the comments start piling up and I start getting in people's feeds. So is that if you went and read, based on data and what experts are saying, it might not be the same. But for me, I do have a lot of experience in seeing what works and what doesn't. A lot of my posts get millions of views. So I would say for the educational stuff where you're trying to get in front of business leaders, between 5 and 8 a.m. on Monday or Tuesday morning is what I've seen works best on LinkedIn.
Right, for you. Okay, Kaylin, what about you? How often should you post? When is the best time?
I agree with Sherry in the sense that I think it really depends what you're posting and more about your business. I think you can go online and find best practices, you should post Tuesdays at 8 a.m. or Thursdays at 10 a.m. or whatever. And I think that's a good place to definitely start if you aren't super active on social media. But I think it's also really important to, after you've been doing it for a while, look at your posts and look at your engagement and your analytics. Are people seeing your posts? Are they liking your posts? Are you getting clicks back to your website or whatever your end goal is there? And adjust according to what those analytics are telling you. For us, we're posting at least once a day, occasionally twice a day. I find that if we post more than that in any given day, then we're losing a little bit of our engagement on each post. As far as timing, I know we talked about Hootsuite earlier. One great thing that I love about Hootsuite is it actually suggests times for me to post based on my engagement data from prior weeks and prior months. And so kind of like Sherry said, when I open up Hootsuite on any given week, it might say, hey, we're suggesting you post on Tuesday at 3 p.m. That might not be what if you're Googling best practice for social media, what you might find. So I think it's important, maybe start somewhere like that, but then watch your posts and watch your engagement and see when you're getting the most engagement and then tailor your strategy to that.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Patty?
Yes, what she said. And that's what I always tell clients that you pay someone for, is because it is hard work figuring out when is the best time to post. I also like Loomly, the schedule I use will do optimum times and say, yes, you can post this now. However, if you post it at 7 p.m. tonight, that's when your audience is most engaged. So I do both. I do what traditionally I have seen on the pages and when the most engagement is and when we seem to get the most feedback. And then sometimes we use what's recommended to us, again, just to see what their algorithm's coming up with that ours hasn't. But that's truly the key, is figuring out when your audience is there. I think on Facebook and Instagram, people tend to be on that more throughout the day. So that doesn't matter as much as LinkedIn, where I do think, like Sherry said, people actually have a strategy of when they go check their LinkedIn. I think Facebook, you just kind of do that as you have 5 minutes or you're at lunch or you have a break. So you get a little bit more opportunity on some of the platforms to reach people multiple times during the day, whereas on some, maybe they only visit it once a day or so.
Okay, Patty, we'll start with you. How long should content be, including videos? How long should videos be?
I always tell clients no more than 30 or 60 seconds. It's an attention span thing. Unless you're doing some kind of educational series, then I always say, let's just put maybe like a little blurb of it, maybe 15 seconds out on Facebook, but then link it to your YouTube channel or your website page that has your YouTube channel feed on it to drive people to your website to see more. But again, that goes back to why are you doing videos and what's the strategy and what are we hoping that the person does? What's our call to action at the end of the video? But yes, I think that any type of video is good. I think that's why TikTok is so popular, is because we've already proven that we just don't have attention spans.
I'm just kidding.
Yeah, exactly.
All right, good. Kaylin, what do you say?
We do our videos a little bit longer. Brad does tons of videos. Like I said, we've kind of dipped into the TikTok Reels realm. So those are obviously a little bit shorter, but we do an FAQ series, and we've done this for a couple of years, and they're about 2-minute long videos. But we try to, at the beginning of the video, tell them exactly what we're going to talk about and kind of hook them in order to kind of keep that attention span a little bit longer. And we're trying to hit very specific, frequently asked questions that we know our audience is interested in. And I think that's kind of how we get away maybe with those 2-minute videos that are a little bit longer than those shorter, the shorter ones. But we definitely don't like to go over like a 2.5 or 3-minute video for sure. We've been working with a video production company as well, in addition to the FAQ videos that we do. And we try to keep all of those, even though they're really pretty and they look great and they're not homemade, we still try to keep them under 3 minutes, because again, it is just an attention span thing. And we know if it's any longer than that, they're likely not sticking around very long.
Yeah. Okay, good. Sherry?
So I don't think my advice, I'd hate to give this advice to anybody. My content is a lot different. So LinkedIn only allows for a 10-minute video. It'll cut you off. And a lot of my videos run a full 10 minutes. And I always get at least 1,000 likes on them. Now, if I took that same 10-minute video and I posted on Facebook, it's going to get 2 likes and no engagement. And I should also explain that in my video, I'm talking about my following is very loyal because they know I'm going to talk about solutions and tips that are life-saving. So if they have a spouse or a daughter or an employee that's struggling with drug addiction, I think people just find the content interesting and they feel that they know that they're most likely going to learn something from a video that I posted. So I didn't start with just making 10-minute videos and people were watching. I think it's a loyalty thing, but I would say on LinkedIn, selfie videos do really, really well. They just do. Like if you are wanting to build your own brand and you're nervous about it, LinkedIn is the place of cheerleaders. You can make the worst video in the world and people are going to like comment and cheer you on for making a video. And I would say average video on LinkedIn, if someone does a selfie video, usually it's like a self-reflection on something they've learned or some kind of experience they've endured in the workforce or something. I would say they're like 3 to 4 minutes long and they do well. As long as you're being of service to others and sharing your experience and being vulnerable, you can do really well on LinkedIn. I know that this seminar that we're having right now is mainly about how to build your business, but don't forget how important it is to build your personal brand, because you can get laid off tomorrow. And if you have like anybody that follows me on any of my socials know my hobbies, they know my likes, they know my interests, and they know what I'm good at. If I were to find myself unemployed at any given time because of all the effort of building my personal brand, I will be okay. And so I think that's just something for all of you to consider, not just for your business, but your personal brand.
Yeah, good thoughts. Kaylin, what about boosting posts? Do you do that? And is it worth it?
I guess I don't want to say yes or no whether it's worth it. For us, I do it occasionally. We actually work with a paid social campaign specialist. So we work with a third-party company who runs a ton of paid ads for us. But internally, there's times when I'm like, okay, well, this is a really good post that I think would be really beneficial if it reached a larger audience. And I will go in and I will both boost a post. For us, it definitely doesn't hurt. I think if we have the right message and I'm taking the time to look at, what kind of audience I'm trying to hit, the budget that I want to spend, I'm typically always getting the results that I'm expecting to get. But I will say it does not compare at all to the impressions and engagement and clicks and things that we are getting through an actual company that is running our paid social campaigns. But for me, it's just a little bit more added data that I get to have on our social channels. So I can see what I kind of play with the audience sometimes based on other audience data we have. And I think it really kind of helps me figure out, okay, who is actually clicking on our boosted posts and things like that. So for us, it doesn't necessarily hurt. But I think you've got to kind of really be specific about what you're trying to achieve when you're doing it.
Okay, good. Patty?
I have several clients I do boosted posts for. The thing that's nice about them is if you post something in the morning and you boost it, you just get a much better chance of the people who follow your page seeing the post. So a lot of times you don't, and the cat again, a lot of times you don't have to spend a lot of money to do it. I have some posts that you can boost, as low as $10. And again, for a small local client, and I'll use Sue, for example, if you're What's Poppin' and you spend $10 to boost a post within a 3-mile radius of your store, you can hit a lot of people to say that you're having a sale on popcorn that day. If you're a larger brand trying to do something, it might not be as beneficial for you. Again, it just really goes back to what we want to accomplish with it. But like Kaylin said, I've had a lot of clients very successful with Facebook ads. I do ads a lot more than I do boosted posts. But again, sometimes the messaging, a client might tell me, here's $100 this month, let's go crazy on boosting some posts. And that always helps because again, depending if you're having a particular special that month, or it's Valentine's Day and you're a restaurant, you want people to make reservations, boosted posts can be very helpful in those situations.
Yeah, great. Sherry, do you do any at all?
I don't do any boosting on posts or anything like that. Yeah.
Sounds like yours grew organically, which is great. So what about Facebook Live, Sherry? Have you done that? And you're mostly
Yeah, I don't do Facebook Live. I will say that a good LinkedIn tip that any of y'all can do now is if you do, people on LinkedIn love animals. So last week, I just didn't have the energy to make a video or anything. And I don't hold myself accountable for any certain amount of videos or anything. If I have the inspiration, I hit record and I go for it. But I was like, okay, I posted this cute picture. I don't know if y'all can see it. It's me and my dog. But instead of just posting the picture, I said work from home vibes because it was about to be the holidays and it's about to hit 4,000 likes right now. And I posted that like on a Friday afternoon. So that's a really easy way that you can start boosting your followers on LinkedIn and start putting yourself out there. Do like a cute selfie with your animal and just steal my idea. Just say work from home vibes and see what happens. Send me a message and tell me to comment on it. I'll go comment on it so it shows up in my followers feed. But honestly, guys, like as it relates to like Facebook Live or Instagram Live or anything like that, I've just learned, for me, I don't neglect the other platforms because I know a lot of, like, I think I have maybe 7,000 followers on Instagram or something. So not a tiny bit, but not a lot either. And I think I have like 10,000 followers on Facebook. I don't neglect those platforms, but I invest most of my time and energy in LinkedIn because that's what makes sense, because that's literally CENTS. That's what's bringing in the money. Facebook and Instagram is kind of just me just sharing my own day-to-day life to help others who are suffering in silence see that living a life of sobriety isn't really all that boring.
That's great. Patty, what about you? Facebook Live?
Facebook Live, I think, has some purposes. I think it's great for realtors. If you're having an open house, to be at the open house and walk around and, come see the house. Same thing if you're having like a grand opening event or something of that nature. I also like the idea that some people share, educational content on it. But it's not something that I really do a lot of or recommend a lot to my clients. I just haven't had that person that's had that specific need for it.
Okay, great. Kaylin?
I would agree with both Patty and Sherry. It's not really something that we spend any time doing. First of all, getting Brad to real time sit and do a Facebook Live probably wouldn't work very well. But it's not something that we've really dabbled with. But I think Patty makes a great point that depending on your profession, I think it definitely has its benefits.
Right. Okay, I've got one last question, then we're going to turn it over to other questions in the group, and then any things that you guys want to make sure that we hit on that haven't been talked about. So who do you look at and follow? Is there anybody that you see success doing great that you want to emulate and follow and say that strategy must be working for them, I'm going to try that? So Kaylin, start with you.
Well, one of my kind of bigger goals moving forward is trying to get a bigger presence on LinkedIn. So I think I'm going to start following Sherry and see what she's doing and how we can use it over here. But, I kind of thought about this question since it was one of the ones that you sent over ahead of time. And, there's not really like one person or one company that I find myself, really looking at a ton for inspiration. It's more so, just like always looking for, I don't limit myself to looking at just personal injury lawyers in our area or even throughout the United States. I really look at different businesses that don't apply to personal injury at all. And I see what other companies are doing and how it's working for them. And then I say, okay, how can I take something like that and make it work for a personal injury law firm? I think for me, just really looking outside of our specific practice and looking at what other people are doing has been really, really helpful for me as I've tried to create the strategy for the firm.
Great. Thanks, Patty.
I have several big brands that I think do amazing. Oreo cookies is probably one of my favorites. They just, again, in real time respond to real events, as does Wendy's, with a lot of humor and things that you wouldn't normally think of, that does set their brand apart. But Parker Law Firm, when we first started talking about this seminar, I was like, I don't know her name, but whoever she is that does the social media for Parker Law Firm, because I've just always been a big fan of how Brad stays authentic, but yet puts himself out there in a way that, again, typically you just do not see an attorney do. And then now Sherry with Cornbread Hustle is going to be like my favorite go-to LinkedIn person. I'm going to actually have to get on LinkedIn a little bit more just to see what she's doing, because I do think that that is a very underutilized platform with small businesses. And like she was saying, again, another great way to build your personal brand also. So I think that the chamber did a good job at selecting the experts for this panel.
I would agree with that. Sherry, what are you going to add?
First of all, I want to say to Kaylin that Parker Law, like, you'll kill it on LinkedIn. You'll do a great job on LinkedIn. So feel free to message me. Like, even on my What Is That Charge series, I tag a criminal attorney in every post just to say that, like, hey, I had him vet all my content, because I'm not an attorney. I know a lot about criminals, but I don't know a lot about the law, obviously, because I was on the wrong side of it. But yeah, in terms of who to look up to, I would say it really depends. So I used to do PR for all of Mark Cuban's Shark Tank companies, and that was my whole job. Like what Patty's doing, that's what I used to do, is really come up with a customized way for people to engage with the right audience. So it depends. Like if you're Kaylin, I'm going to tell you to like get on LinkedIn and get some money like now. But if you're Oreos, I might have some different ideas that are more like Instagram and TikTok, because that's where your audience is going to be. So the best advice I could give for somebody just wondering, how can I get out of my comfort zone, is, gosh, he has really foul language and he's really, really hyper, and he's in your face. But if you go to Gary V, it's VEE, Gary V, he'll be like, he's just going to shoot it to you straight and tell you what to start doing for your personal brand. And he shares how he did it with his wine brand and how he did it with this company and that company. So I think he'd be a really good basic person to look at for starters, and then determine a company that has the same audience you have and look at what they're doing and start emulating some of their posts.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you so much for that. Okay, I'm going to open the floor to questions and see, are there questions that you guys have that we didn't hit on? Looks like Sherry's given us her in LinkedIn. You can just click on that to go right to Cornbread Hustle and see all the fun things she's doing. Okay, I don't see any questions in the chat. How do you balance not getting too big of a head? I mean, I'll just say it that way. Like if you are doing, you see all your numbers go up, how do you balance staying humble when you suddenly, it's like you were becoming an influencer? You have any thoughts on that? Anybody?
I can speak to that. I actually have more and more imposter syndrome the more successful I become. It's actually been really hard for me to deal with. So I wish I had advice on that, if anyone else has advice. So I became humble on accident. I'd actually like to gain some of my confidence I used to have. I don't want you to do it, but you can if you really want, if you're interested. If you go back years to my LinkedIn, you'll see I was very confident as somebody who still drank. And I've had plenty to say, and my content was a lot more frequent. Yes, it did. Like when I was 6 months sober and I posted that I had a breathalyzer in my car and just shared my story of my DWI, that's when all the followers came in. And I had no problem between 6 months and 2 years sober, like getting on there and sharing. I guess, I don't know, I wouldn't say I was faking it till I made it, but once the real money started coming in and I felt real credibility and accountability, now I get more and more, I just have imposter syndrome is all I'm gonna say. So I have no problem staying humble. I'm trying to find my confidence, honestly.
Susan, I think you're adding something in the chat. You're on mute.
I saw her post. I'll answer that question. So I have anything Cornbread Hustle business. I usually just have he's my right-hand man. I used to work in the newsroom with him. He takes the selfie videos that I do and he makes them more like cleaned up and professional and posts them from more of a third person point of view. And he'll post the content I'm doing on the business, because I think my Cornbread Hustle business page on LinkedIn has 10,000 followers or something. I definitely invest all your energy into personal, but you
Okay.
or somebody take that same content and make it less personal and put it on the business page. Does that
Okay.
make sense? The business page
Yes.
doesn't get as much traction. It just doesn't. People don't
Right.
engage as much. People want to
Okay.
engage with people. They want to get to know you. They don't, I'm not going to say they don't care about your business, but business accounts on LinkedIn don't.
I'm
do
in
that.
insurance, Sherry. They really don't care.
So, but also don't neglect it, right? Because one of the things that I
Right.
have to work really hard on is, what if I ever want to sell Cornbread Hustle? I'm gonna have to be sold with it at this point, you know? So like,
Right.
don't
Okay.
neglect
Okay.
your business pages, but put energy towards your personal one and have somebody take that, hire Patty to take that content and make it fit for your business page, basically.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that.
And just to add to that, you know, I found too, Brad on both his Facebook and LinkedIn, anytime he posts something personally to his personal page, it gets so many more likes, so many more comments.
Yeah.
People will stop him, you know, at a lunch and say, oh my gosh, I loved your post. If I'm posting it on the business page, we are not getting the same. I think we do still get some love, but it's not the same amount of love that he gets when he posts it personally. So I would agree with Sherry there that I think your personal page is also still really, really important.
Yeah, people do business with Shaw Insurance because of Susan Shaw.
Yes, that is 100% true. So
Yep.
I have a tip to add that will be helpful for those of you, maybe even helpful for Patty and Kaylin. So as a former news reporter, it was my job to come up with news story ideas that the public is going to care about. And every single day I had to go into the news director's office with all the other reporters and give 2 story ideas a day. And if I gave enough stupid ones, I probably wouldn't be employed. So it's no different for your social media. You're trying to come up with content that people are going to care about and want to read about. So one of the easiest ways that you know that it's something that's viable is you can go to news.google.com. Like for me, let's just say I want to do a LinkedIn video about alcoholism in the holidays. I can type in alcoholism holidays and all these news stories that have already been done on experts speaking about different things about alcoholism in the holidays will come up. And now I can just go through and pick and choose. Now I can do, I think I did the other day, I think I did a video, 3 tips for HR professionals to create a more inclusive workplace environment for people who are suffering in silence. And I gave 3 different tips. I'm at a point now where I don't have to use news.google.com for stuff, but I always encourage people who are new to this to use that and just type in different things. Also, you can always go to national holidays and you might be shocked. You're like, holy cow, there's a national cheesecake day. I own a cheesecake factory. Like, this is great. So just being aware of those national news days, as well as just using news.google.com to get some ideas of content that's important to others and that can inspire or educate.
yeah, that's really good. I like that tip. I'm going to use that myself. So what else? Are there any other questions? I will add one thing, Sherry. Thank you for your honesty about the question. It just came to me when I was thinking about how incredible your LinkedIn has gone. And my husband said something similar to me, just personally, that so I fundraise for Six Stones, obviously, and I'll do videos. And he'll say, well, I'm an influencer. And I don't think of myself as a social media influencer. I'm actually not on social media very much at all. So I've got a great person. She'll do the quick video for me or of me. But I'll review it before I go on there. But I just don't stay on there because it's like, I don't want to see myself that way. Right. So it's like, I try to separate that. And my husband does a good job of keeping me humble. But I think that if I pay too much attention, then I will get a big head. and I have to know it's not about me. All glory to God, right? Like if we do a post and we get all the money we're supposed to for right now for kids, it's okay, whoever's around me. And the other thing I've done recently is I've tried to get all the directors. Most people at Six Stones, they don't want to be on video. So, and I realize I'm the faceplate, but if you look at them, like I just had Elizabeth Phillips, a brand new, employee. So she's doing the video, trying to get the other people to do it. So back to your point about one person being a brand, and like with Parker Law Firm, Brad is the brand, but maybe there could be Kaylin. She's so super cute. Put her on a video, right? So let her do something. I don't know, just kind of spread the love. Okay, any other last thoughts?
It looks like
Susan?
somebody asked a question. I can't answer that question. I'm the worst at that, but that's probably a Patty question.
Yeah, it says any tips on account security because of the hacking. I would definitely recommend you turn on two-factor authentication. If it's very easy to do in your Facebook settings, but it gives you that one extra step where either they send you a code via email or text in case you ever log in from a device other than your own IP address. And I would definitely recommend that because it's very prevalent right now with people hacking accounts. I'm sure everyone listening to this gets friend requests from someone that they think, aren't I already friends with them? So it's just people trying to get your data. But two-factor authentication will help with that.
Good. And Sue and Patty, you guys, when we were coming up with the questions, you guys, there was a discussion about clip art and if people use clip art, and what's your recommendation on that? Free clip art.
Yeah, be very careful about posting potentially copyrighted photos or images. I know it's not always possible to create your own content, but just be very careful because a lot of people get in trouble because they might take a picture from someone else's website or something that someone else posted on social media they didn't have the rights to have in the first place. And you can get sued for that. So I always recommend some kind of photo subscription. There are several out there that some are very, very inexpensive. But always make sure that your images that you're sharing are not copyrighted. That can really hurt a business. And the third cat sighting.
we use a couple different programs for graphic design, but one of them more inexpensive is Canva. I'm sure, I just saw in the comments, Canva.
Yep.
We pay, I think, $12.99 a month, and they give you access to stock images. You can really search almost any kind of stock image, and you know that one's probably a safe one to use because you are paying for the service. And so that's kind of my advice is only use a stock image or something like that when you're going through a service that you're already paying for, just to kind of avoid any of those issues.
Very good. So any last comments or thoughts? Okay, I think we will say our subject matter experts are definitely that. I think there's quite a few things. I took a lot of notes on things that I'm going to do differently and better listening to you guys. So thank you so much to all three of you for being our subject matter experts. We are going to record this, or this is recorded, and we're going to put it on the chamber website. So we'll, this is the first one. We're going to have next, I think in January, we're going to do marketing on a shoestring budget. So if you guys have subject matter experts that you want to send over, we would greatly appreciate it.
Thanks for having us.
Have a great day.
Thank you, Jen.
All right. Bye, guys.
Thank you, everybody, for joining. And it's in February. Our next one is February 17th, I believe. So stay tuned. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Sue.